I'd like to share with you some suggested odds and ends to have on hand in your studio just to make your glass fusion life just a little bit easier. First of all, let's talk about safety in the studio. If someone isn't wearing protective eyeglasses like I'm wearing, always suggest that they slip on a pair of safety glasses. You never know when a shard of glass could just jump up off the table, and you certainly wouldn't want it to hit anybody in the eye, especially if you're working with small children. So, safety glasses. We also recommend when you or your staff are handling lots of sheets of glass, maybe unpacking an order or arranging your shelves, wearing safety gloves. These are very flexible, so you're still able to handle pieces of glass without any problems. They've got a little bit of a sticky coating on them, so glass won't slip out of your hands. So if you're going to be working with glass, putting them away, it's a great idea to wear safety gloves. If you've got a customer that might be on something like Coumadin, blood thinners, definitely don't want them to cut themselves. So maybe they could wear the safety gloves through their whole glass cutting project. Kids too. All right, other than that, glass fusing in your studio is really fun and easy, so don't get too worried about safety. As long as you've got the gloves and the glasses, you're pretty good to go. Now, some of the household items that you might want to have around the studio to be helpful would be some rubbing alcohol. Sometimes glass on your shelves might have some stickers on them, whether it be a price tag or a label of the brand. Always peel those off before you begin the project and just use ordinary rubbing alcohol to get most of the sticky stuff off. You want to have rubbing alcohol on hand when you start mixing up your mold primer called Mold EZ. So we would simply open the bottle, pour in your rubbing alcohol, give it a good shimmy shake, and it's ready to brush on. So speaking of brushes, you're going to need that too. If it's a large mold, we've got these very soft Hake brushes. These put down the primer very smooth on large surfaces, maybe a big platter or a big sushi plate type of mold. Or if you've got small pieces that you want to prime, a small soft artist brush would work great too. Keep these brushes separate from your painting brushes because this is an alcohol base and we want to make sure there's no cross-contamination in the studio. When we start attaching glass projects together, we recommend two things. If it's a great big surface that you want to add little bits of frit, maybe some little cut up pieces, something like a mosaic pattern, you can use this Clearfire liquid. It can be either brushed on or have some cotton swabs on hand. Pour some into a cup. See how easy, then you can just dip into your little cup and smear it across the whole big surface. Goes very quickly. So it's an efficient way of applying the Clearfire liquid. This piece would then be ready to start sprinkling frit or adding little bits of glass right on top of this while it's wet. So the little cups, Q-tips, or maybe a brush reserved just for this product. If you're gluing specific pieces of glass in specific places, this clear blue school glue works really great. It's like a gel. You can squeeze some of that onto a cup or onto a palette. Toothpicks are a must. Remember our mantra about gluing? Pinpoints of glue. So what measures a pinpoint better than a toothpick? So you could squeeze some of your glue out, dip it right in, and deposit just pinpoints of glue right onto your glass surface as to not over apply glue. We certainly don't want to have any residue of ashes from burnt glue left between two pieces of glass. I could just simply attach my next piece of glass by laying it right on the top. Voila. So school glue gel or the Clearfire. Both work great. When we're doing our glass cutting, remember to make the tool glide easier and give you more precise cuts when using this tool. We have our cutting oil. Be careful about housekeeping about this oil. If you're a paint your own pottery studio or have any kind of ceramic or other kinds of crafts around where you're going to be doing your glass cutting, be careful that you don't get this oil on anything else. So pour it into a little cup, or if you're working on one of our cutting grids, pour a few drops right in the corner of one of those grids for ease of just dipping in and cutting away. Another great use for our little cups. And the last thing we recommend having on hand is our diamond pad. If you end up with a finished project that has maybe a little sharp bump or a little burr on the edge, we wouldn't want someone to cut themselves on it, so simply remove it from the kiln, find that little sharp edge, and scour away across that edge with this diamond pad. The sharp edge is gone. Makes it perfectly safe to touch. Okay, one last thing. If you don't already have a scissor in your studio area, there's two kinds of paper we use in glass fusing that you'll need a scissor to cut them apart. First off would be our thin fire paper. This is the paper that you're going to lay on your dedicated kiln shelf to keep the glass project from fusing or sticking to that kiln shelf during firing. So if this was the size of my project, I would set it on some paper. I could draw on it with a marker. So we always want to cut this piece of paper slightly larger than our project. So using a scissor, I could trim it. This would be ready to be placed right into my kiln. Hang on to these scraps. We don't want to ever throw this away. You never know when you have a small piece of jewelry or something small, an ornament, that you can always use a small scrap. It's a good idea to keep a bin in your kiln area. See, I keep all of my scraps right inside of this bin so that they're handy for me to reach in and grab the next time I need a small piece rather than cutting into a large piece. The last idea I have for you, you're going to find the more glass fusing you do, the more odds and ends of glass you're going to wind up with. Don't think of this as scrap. This is certainly not anything you'd want to throw into the trash. Every piece of glass is usable for some sort of a project. So save all of your scrap. We don't call them scrap, we call them decorative accent glass. You'll be amazed how fun it is to rummage through the glass bin to find just that perfect little scrap for just the perfect little decoration for that project. We do recommend, if you are going to have customers or when you start rummaging through this, it can be sharp because a lot of these have already been cut up. So using your safety gloves anytime you're digging through here. So maybe you want to separate your glass. There's quite a few different kinds of glass in this one bin. So if I'm more organized, I might want to have all of my decorative art glass in one bin, my opal glass in another bin, and maybe this third bin for my transparent colors. It might save you time in keeping it organized to find just the right piece of glass. The same kind of bin that we were using for our thin fire paper or possibly your scrap pieces of paper or glass, you can also use this to nip your pieces of glass into. When you're using a mosaic nipper, sometimes the glass has a tendency to get a little wild on you. So we don't want it to fly up and accidentally hit someone in the face or eye or scatter around the room to make extra work for you later. So let's just say, always nip into a basket. So this plastic tall basket works very well. So you'll notice when I start nibbling and biting off pieces of glass, I'm not chasing them around the studio. They're going to fall right into my basket. The same thing holds true for making rod pieces. So if you have a glass rod, you can nip them right into this basket and there's no need to chase them all over the studio. All in one place, easy to get.